Right, it's 1 minute past one, so let's kick this off. I think we'll naturally have people drip sort of in and out, or hopefully just in and not out. But let's kick start this thing. Okay, all right. Thank you everyone for joining. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm one of the co-founders over here at ReachDesk. Now, I asked my very good friends over at Strategic ABM to talk to you guys about account-based marketing specifically. So we've got a really exciting agenda together today. I'd just like to quickly introduce all of them. I've worked with Alex, Deck, and Fez closely over the past year and a half. Real great thought leaders within the industry. Those of you who don't know, Strategic ABM is a pure play ABM agency helping specifically B2B, predominantly technology brands win, grow and retain their most important accounts. And as I said, ReachDesk and Strategic have been working together for a while, helping deliver unique account-based experiences, account-based marketing strategies to, as I said, win, grow and retain accounts. So on this session today, this workshop, we try and keep it interactive. We've got Alex Embling, who's the CEO, Fez Ascari, who's the Director of Sales, and Declan Mulkeen, who's the CMO. You might have seen myself and Declan on a couple of videos that we put together over the summer called ABM in the House. If you haven't got access to those, go back and watch them because they're quite fun. Short 10-minute snippets on how to do ABM in a remote world. Now, from my end, I'm not really going to add too much more. I'll probably be brought in and out every now and again, hopefully, but I'll be here at the end as well. I'm going to hand over to my good friends over at Strategic, and I'll get you guys to kick things off. But thanks everyone for joining, and I hope this is a good session for you all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. So as Alex mentioned earlier, we're here today to talk about ABM. And we put together the agenda. Don't be too worried. We won't do death by PowerPoint. We're going to try and keep it as short and snappy as possible and focus in on what ABM is, what we believe are some of the best use cases for it, and some tips, some strategies, some ideas to help you along the way and to get you thinking about your own ABM programs. So just before we actually start, what I'd like to do actually, if possible, and if technology allows it, is to do a quick poll. So hopefully on your screen, you should see a question there about where are you on your ABM journey. If you could quickly just answer that, that will actually help us and be very informative as we go through this presentation, and indeed afterwards with the follow-up and how we can actually provide more insightful information for you. So I can see now the answers are coming in thick and fast. It seems that the medium is winning the race at the moment in terms of where are you on your ABM journey. Medium, we've started doing ABM but need support. That seems to be the front runner at the moment as it comes through. 58% of votes are being collected so far. So thank you everyone for voting. And I think actually we're going to have a clear winner today, unless Advanced can sneak up on the outside, to use a horsing terminology. Yeah, we're at 65% of votes counted, and we've got 58% of votes are saying medium. So it does actually seem as if most of you are somewhat on your journey and are looking for ideas, for help on how to move forward. So today, obviously, we're going to talk about what is ABM. We're going to look at the different program types, talk to you a little bit about the journey, how we see it, talk to you a little bit about the framework. And we have a framework that we've developed at the agency that we use with our clients. Talk to you about the importance of account experiences and how we work with ReachDesk, which I think is a really important point to mention today. And then some tips and ideas about success factors and what really can actually help you deliver the best experience and the most successful ABM strategy. So now I'm actually going to hand over to my colleague Fez, who's going to talk to you in a bit more detail about what is ABM.
Thanks, Nick. So we were looking at the feedback from the webinar signups, and we can see there are a lot of questions about what is ABM and really how to get started. And I know Dex just run the poll, but there is a breadth of ABM experience in terms of the audience today. Therefore, we wanted to take it from the top. So to answer the first key question, what is account-based marketing? ABM is a strategic go-to-market approach focusing on your most important and highest value accounts. As you can see from the graphic, demand generation and persona-based marketing is often all about filling the funnel, particularly useful when trying to establish product market fit, as an example. But ABM really comes into play when you have a level of clarity around your ideal customer profile, your ICP, and your key buyers within target accounts, also known as a decision-making unit or DMU. ABM is not demand generation or at scale, but it can be a layer on top of your brand and demand gen programs that bring focus on your highest value accounts. And really, when targeting mid-market and enterprise buyers, helping your teams to grow, win, and retain their most important accounts. This means treating accounts as a market of one and building compelling account experiences and strong alignment with sales and account teams and their go-to-market strategy. So what are the use cases for ABM? And here I'll talk through the context for ABM, and really we break this down into 4 key considerations. Looking at existing customers, those closest to revenue, thinking about land and expand and growing share of wallet within those customer accounts, those that you have existing relationships with, potentially identifying new business units within those accounts or lines of business and building out the footprint within those customer accounts, perhaps globally. Also thinking about retention strategies, keeping front of mind with customers and people that are most important to you. Moving on from that, we think about major opportunities and deal stage ABM, so RFPs and tenders, influencing those buying committees, perhaps pre-tender, and then also working with the sales teams to develop more bottom of funnel engagement strategies, evaluating known opportunities that are of significant value to your organization. ABM also considers repositioning your organization in the mind of the buyer. Perhaps you are unknown in the market. Maybe you are looking to move from SMB to enterprise. That's actually a use case we come across a lot is a business has seen success in a segment of the market, like winning the SME market. And now they want to move up to the enterprise segment. And obviously enterprise has a different buying process and considerations. Outside of that, you may have acquired a new company or launching a new product, and you need to make buyers aware of that new proposition. So perhaps an opportunity for upsell there. And lastly, or often the priority for ABM is winning new customers, new logo acquisition. This means building an engagement strategy from awareness through to the commit stages of the buyer journey, and bringing sales and marketing alignment from the outset. And most importantly, it means having clarity on target accounts and their tiers. Alex will talk a little bit more about that in the later sections of the discussion. So what is, or who is ABM fit for? I'd say, while ABM seems new to many people, it's actually been around officially since 2003, and in fact is an evolution from key account management that large organizations such as Accenture, Oracle, IBM have been doing for many years. You'll see different definitions of who ABM is a fit for or not. And in our experience, these 2 columns that Dex sharing here, they present the kind of key use cases and summarize where we see ABM working and for who. Just to pick out some examples there, you know, selling into enterprise where you have complex buyer journeys and propositions. This is where you need to build an understanding of your decision-making unit, their account level business drivers and objectives, and to really shape buyer-centric propositions and make your value tangible to the customer. On the flip side, I'd say ABM is not a fit if you have more of a transactional sales process or a low deal value. There are likely other go-to-market routes that align more closely with ROI and buying behaviors for that type of business model. You may have heard about product-led growth strategies. But even companies with transactional sales often look to adopt ABM as they mature their product and seek to engage accounts at the enterprise level. At this stage, you may be asking, so how do you start on your ABM journey? If we start to look at understanding the high-level framework for ABM programs, the ABM pyramid you can see here is a well-accepted model for describing the 3 ABM program types: one-to-one, one-to-few, and one-to-many. Ultimately, the further up the pyramid you go, you are targeting fewer accounts, upping the level of personalization, increasing the level of engagement with the account and the key people inside of the account, and increasing your investment per account as the ROI increases from a revenue perspective. And as you go up the pyramid, you're more than likely changing focus from net new logo acquisition to a focus on growth and retention of existing accounts. So the reality of ABM and where we see it working best is when you have a blend of these 2 to 3 program types. So working across one-to-many and one-to-few, or maybe one-to-few and one-to-one. That has some considerations around your deal values and the kind of maturity of your organization there. Dec, unless you have any other comments to add there, I can hand over to Alex here.
No, just to mention, actually, I think we should have said at the outset that please, with the functionality of Zoom, you should be able to ask questions live. So feel free to drop some questions in there. We received a lot of questions from you when you signed up to join this Lunch and Learn, and we'll be coming to those at the end. But please, if anything comes to mind, if you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A functionality, and we'll be delighted to answer them as we go along.
Okay, guys, so thanks, Wes, and great to talk to you all today. Now I'm going to take you through a typical ABM journey. And we like to think of ABM, it's more of a marathon and not a sprint, really. We like to call it a journey. And like any significant journey, you need to plan well, get everything in place, and you're ready to start. But you can't do it on your own. ABM is a true team strategy, a team sport, if you like. And in our experience, you need to build a specialist team to do ABM, both internally with sales and customer success, with the C-suite, etc., but also externally with specialist ABM agencies such as ourselves, with technology partners such as Reachdesk. So if we just flip onto the ABM journey graphic here, it all starts with the ICP. And the ICP helps to validate personas to ensure alignment between sales and marketing on what good looks like in terms of accounts and markets. You use your ICP, your ideal customer profile, to confirm the criteria for account selection. Here you may bring in technographic data or more nuanced insights such as regulatory issues or procurement challenges. And then you use the insights development to provide a deep external view into accounts and markets, a layer on top of your in-house data and understanding. It focuses on key trends, business challenges, objectives that your solutions can solve for. And insights can focus on markets, clusters of accounts, or executive profiling, and or a mix. Internal and third-party insights support value proposition development, creating compelling and unique buyer-centric messaging frameworks that underpin the strategic narrative for ABM campaigns. Value propositions and account selection help shape highly targeted, personalized, and specific campaigns into target accounts. The objectives focus on the DMU engagement, the decision-making unit, and moving from awareness to commit stages. Account experiences are your opportunity to connect with a buyer on an emotional level, building trust and credibility at the commercial level by pulling on the levers that drive those emotional connections with your brand and your value proposition. Designing the right account experience in a way that delivers your value prop with impact has the potential to cut through the noise and engage those that matter most. At the campaign execution stage, this is where the orchestration of what typically is a multi-channel but currently digital-first program of activities to engage those DMUs, moving them through the 3 R's of ABM. That's reputation, relationships, and revenue. If you didn't measure it, it didn't happen. Reporting for ABM can be complex. So at the outset, focus on what metrics are important to your business in terms of value metrics and hard numbers. Build executive and operational scorecards and provide transparency across teams. You need to be able to move fast and optimize campaigns, not wait a month for sales to report back.
Alex, I'm going to hop in for a second, if that's all right,
Sure.
because I certainly have a couple of burning questions for you that I would love to know, and perhaps some of the rest of the audience. Now, every quarter we refresh our ICP.
Yeah.
And it's always a massive pain, right? It's never an easy task. How do you guys do it? And how do you do it on behalf of your customers? What can you share that makes it a valuable exercise?
About the specific of a refresh, Alex, or something?
Well, let's start with the creation, right? Like,
yeah.
What are the important parts that you go through? Because in my mind, that's one of the most important parts, right? If you can get that nailed at the beginning, then a lot of it flows from there. Let's start with the creating your ICP and how perhaps that might be used to be refreshed as well.
Yeah, well, when we're creating our ICPs for our agency and for the clients, we always start by asking themselves the question: what product is it we're trying to sell here? And some clients have a simple question to answer, and they may have a single product proposition. Other clients have a collection of product propositions, and they might group that product under a single brand, for example. But starting with the product that you want to sell more of, and then looking at the existing clients that have bought that product from you, the clients you want more of, is absolutely the right starting point to look at. You then, when you're building your ICP, it's really important to involve the whole of the business. You know, you speak to your customer success team. You know, who were the clients that were the easiest to deliver your product to. Speak to your finance team. Who was the most profitable clients that you delivered or sold your service to. Speak to your sales team. Who was the easiest from a sales process perspective to sell your products to, and so on and so on. So it's really important to get insight from the whole of the business on that ICP process, because that will help evaluate how you tier when you come to select your accounts. So using cross-business departments to inform the ICP, making sure you have clarity on what product it is you're trying to sell, what existing clients have bought that product from you in the past, and then obviously profiling them from a technographic and a firmographic basis. That's the relatively straightforward bit. The key to really successful ICPs is making sure that when you're building it and designing the ICP, you can see the route to a very meaningful value proposition. Because if your value proposition is too generic, too wishy-washy, when you come to campaign it, I guarantee that campaign is going to fall flat in its face. There's so much noise out there at the moment. The key to getting any ABM program right is to make sure that your ICP is specific enough and also aligned with the right ABM program layer, which we'll come on to in a minute. But making sure it's specific enough so that you can connect it to a meaningful value proposition that can be recognized by the target accounts that you're going after, and also can translate into an experience which will blow these guys away and start those meaningful sales conversations. So the nuance criteria of an ICP is sort of the gold dust element. For us personally, there are a few nuances to our ICP. The size of the sales and marketing teams of the technology brands that we're looking to target is really important. Ironically, we're seeing a lot of correlation between when a technology brand was formed. A lot of our ICPs, our tier one ICPs, are formed pre-2000. They typically have older school sales and marketing teams, and we can help out at a much deeper level with that sort of DNA of a technology brand. So involve your business, get feedback from all of those departments I just mentioned, and look for the real nuances that make up the DNA of a really good fit client, and use that to use that as a starting point for your ICP. But when you're looking to refresh this, obviously getting sales and re-interviewing all those departments quarterly is a really good practice to get into, because it's amazing how when the market changes, that data point will change as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really valuable. And I know you guys are using a lot of intent data as well. Is that something you're going to be bringing up later on?
Yeah, no, the intent comes in further down the sort of account selection process. We use it as a filter and a prioritization mechanism. But yeah, we'll absolutely talk about that in a minute.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Well, actually, let me just interrupt, guys. Alex Oling, not Alex Embling. As you've asked a question, obviously the audience is actually asking you a question back. So I'm just going to jump in now and keep this flowing. A question from one of the audience is, well, why are you changing your ICP every quarter?
Why are you changing your ICP every quarter?
That's a question for Alex Oli, because obviously he mentioned that that Reach Desk obviously look at their ICP and refresh it potentially every quarter. So the question from the audience is, what's your thinking behind that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think that was from Kamal originally. So Kamal, nice to have you on this one. Good to hear from you. Always asking great questions. Yeah, look, it's part of what Alex alluded to there. The market changes all the time, but it's changed a lot this year. There are certain industries that are better fits for us to sell to versus others. Right? There are some that might be emerging and we're not as aware of. And I think the most important exercise for us is to have that feedback loop from our customer success and account management team to really understand which businesses are coming on board, adopting fastest, expanding within our product usage as well. And that's partly, the state of the size of the business we are. We're a fairly young company as well, so we're always learning, and that's always evolving. But even in my last company that was 15, 20 years old, we still did it every quarter because we'd always learn that one or two small things that would allow us to adapt our message, put that into sales sequences, account-based advertising that we were running. It could be around even the tiniest things we learned, such as some of the companies that we're going after might have had different financial periods, and actually their budget planning cycles would come in different times as well. So we would focus more on those industries. It might have been certain industries would go within the UK calendar cycle of April onwards. Some would start in January. So we'd learn all these things, we'd log it all, and then we'd make sure that we're going after the right accounts at the right time. And that certainly helped us be a lot more focused.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex, for that. We're going to hand back to Alex Embling now, the CEO of the agency. Alex, you were finishing off the ABM journey. Anything more to add on that?
No, I think that's all as far as that's concerned. Yeah, no, I mean, great questions around ICP. It's so important to get it right because if you don't get that right, then everything else will fail further down the line. So maybe let's just jump onto the agency's ABM framework here, Dave. So we're going to talk to you about our framework here. So ABM is all about the orchestration, and it has many moving parts which need to be carefully synchronized and deployed. The ABM framework is the agency's bespoke process for orchestrating an ABM strategy. So if you just skip on to the next slide there for us, Dave. So this graphic here illustrates our agency ABM framework, and I'll just take you through the sort of primary stages. This is built and designed to run over a 12-month period. And in the first sort of 3 months, in months 1 to 3, this is typically where the strategy planning and building happens. This is where you define your ICP, your ideal customer profile. You may commission the insights reports at an industry, a customer, or a pain level. Launch intent data if you have it for that always-on ABM program, and we'll go through that in a minute. Build and tier your account list, develop your value proposition and your content strategy, and then design and create that account experience. You're obviously going to sign off your content and campaign execution plan at the same time. So that's months 1 to 3. In months 4 to 6, this is when you launch and execute your campaigns. This is where you prioritize your one-to-few campaign into the first 15 accounts, and you launch your at-scale, always-on, one-to-many program. You consider one-to-one for your most valuable accounts if you have existing customers that you think there are opportunities there for. You build your reporting dashboards, and then optimize campaigns as you go along. In months 6 to 9, this is where you select the second wave of accounts for a one-to-few program. You review and optimize that always-on one-to-many program, promote relevant one-to-many accounts into the one-to-few, and enrolling accounts in the one-to-one program. In months 9 to 12, this is where you, again, review and optimize, review and refresh the account insights, and select that third wave of accounts for one to few. You also consider promoting any one-to-one accounts to one to few, and consider promoting one to few to one to one. And let me just give you some context from the agency's perspective. So for the agency at the always-on ABM level, we target our total addressable market. This contains all of our target accounts meeting our ideal customer profile across the technology verticals that we care about. We target them with a value proposition that describes how ABM helps sales and marketing leaders win, grow, and retain their most important accounts. And this layer gives us that always-on air coverage, generating awareness and engagement. Any new accounts meeting our technology ICP that come into an active buying journey also get added to this at-scale program. We review these active buying journeys regularly. To complement our at-scale layer, we run a series of more personalized one-to-few programs over a 12-month period. Typically, these are focused on a specific technology vertical like MarTech, for example. The volume of accounts we target at this level is much smaller, being carefully selected using the data and the insights. Unlike the always-on layer, the experience we deliver to these accounts has more investment and is designed to talk to specific buyers within the target account lists. Our one-to-one programs are reserved for growing and retaining our highest value customers. We use this to expand into new regions for existing client accounts. As you can see from this illustration, our framework allows for accounts to be promoted to a more personalized program when certain criteria is met, validating a high level investment. Conversely, accounts can also be demoted if that same criteria fails to be met on an ongoing basis. This concept of demotion and promotion works towards our policy of zero-waste marketing, focusing your sales and marketing dollars where you have the highest chance of ROI. I just want to spend a little bit talking about account experiences. If you just flip to the next slide there. So some of you may have heard of other terms such as account-based sales, account-based engagement, and account-based experiences. What is absolutely clear is that fundamentally your ABM success will come down to the account experience you're able to create for your brand. Your customers and prospects are very savvy buyers, digitally fluent, and bombarded with sales and marketing propositions daily. And they expect the same experience as they receive with a B2C product. This merging of B2C and B2B has been going on for some time now, but it's only accelerating more and more. As we talked about earlier in the presentation, you use the data to guide you, use data to inform your value proposition, strategy, and messaging. And then you carefully design your ABM experience and weave in offline and online experiences that are connected and seamless. So just click on to the next slide.
So actually, just before we do it, Alex, just going to interrupt. Actually, we got a question from one of the members of the audience, from Jessica, saying, regarding back to your ABM framework, actually, asking, would you always suggest a 12-month framework? For example, how would you frame this if you were targeting a different industry each quarter? That's a great question, Jessica. Thank you for that.
So if you're targeting a different industry each quarter,
yeah. So would you always suggest a 12-month framework, or how would you suggest that in terms of looking at potentially different industries each quarter, or that's who you're looking to target?
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe just flip back to the framework graphic there. So thanks for the question, Jessica. I mean, look, ultimately, everyone has limitations in budget and resource. And the question you've got to ask yourself is about priority. So the always-on layer there is designed to be that air coverage across all of your ICP and total addressable market. So that gives you that visibility into potentially all industries, depending on your ICP. So you've got that air coverage in the background, generating that awareness and building that engagement. And then if those accounts, some of those accounts in that always-on layer show their hands, you have the option to promote them into that more personalized one-to-few program. The one-to-few program, however, is reserved for your priority new logo accounts. One-to-few is typically used for that new logo acquisition remit. It can be used for existing clients as well, maybe for that land and expand. But typically, your one to few programs are talking to that industry, that vertical, what we like to call a cluster of accounts. You can see cluster topic A there in the graphic, and that cluster is the common trait that pulls all of those accounts together. So to answer your question, how would you make the decision which industries to run per quarter? Well, if you have the budget and resource to go through the data, the insights, and the account selection process for each industry, and then run them concurrently, 1 quarter per industry, then absolutely, there's no issues with that doing that whatsoever. Quite often, the limitation comes down to budget and resource to actually do that one to few program to the level it's been designed to do, which is at a much more personalized level, making sure you have the right data foundations and commissioning those insights to inform the strongest value proposition that you can get into the market to cut through the noise. I can't enforce that point too much, is that it's incredibly noisy out there. So making yourself stand out by doing that extra level of due diligence on the messaging and the experience that you generate is incredibly important when trying to target your highest value accounts. So this isn't ABM isn't for your lower value or transactional sales. It's for your highest value accounts, because by definition, you're going to get more ROI by targeting them. So I hope that answers your question. It comes down to budget and resource as to how many industry type programs at the one to few level you could run. So were there any other questions on that?
Alex, there was a question there about the always on campaign. Have you got some examples of always on ABM? Maybe we could talk a little bit about how we use intent data at the always on level.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we as an agency, we use intent data as part of our always on sort of air coverage. We go through the ICP process, obviously. We build our total addressable market, which is all of the accounts that we care for that meet our minimum ICP criteria. And we upload those accounts into that always on layer. In conjunction with the intent platform that we use, that helps us identify accounts that are in that active buying journey. So that always on layer is targeting both accounts that are in an active journey and a non-active journey. But the intent data shows us the accounts that are showing that highest level of intent. So we're monitoring topics that we care about, obviously all around account-based marketing. We're overlaying our ICP on top of that intent and saying which accounts that meet our ICP are engaging with topics that we can align with our products and services. And then that could form the criteria for promoting some of those accounts into that one to few layer if we have a framework set up to enroll them in. So hopefully that answers the question, Fess. Do you think that answers the question you got asked there?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, the other consideration there is always on ABM is really about building your brand in that segment of the market. So like say, those accounts that fit your ICP, and we're monitoring accounts in that active buying journey through the intent data, we're making sure that we're targeting those accounts and spending budget on the accounts that are potentially showing a greater level of engagement around that topic. So I guess the objective of a one-to-many program is to really build brand awareness around your value proposition, and then also to generate top of funnel engagement and potentially engage the SDR team around that type of campaign. And then those accounts, like you say, that are showing an increased level of engagement and they fit the right criteria could then get elevated into that one to few campaign.
Thanks, Fez. Thanks, Alex. Just on that point, it seems obviously this ABM framework is generating a lot of interest. So a question probably for Fez and Alex, actually, well, actually for everyone on the call. What does your deal size need to be to justify a one-to-one ABM program? Who'd like to answer that one?
Well, yeah, if you look at the origins of ABM, as Declan referred to earlier, the Accentures, the Oracles, and all of those big guys, obviously their deal sizes are in the hundred thousands and millions of pounds, and that isn't necessary for most people. But look, we're seeing we're seeing that deal sizes anywhere between, you really need to be thinking 7,500 grand in annual recurring revenue, in my opinion, as the sort of entry point for considering the more personalized programs. So when, soon if you're looking at the one-to-few and the one-to-one programs, absolutely, you shouldn't be looking at investing that kind of money in engaging those accounts, if your deal size sort of falls below those levels, because just the time and investment in the insight, the data, the account experience you design, you have to reserve that for your highest value accounts and your more complex sales cycles, the ones that require 2, 3, 4, 5 people to engage and to influence in order to get a deal across the line. So as I said before, ABM is a marathon, not a sprint. And by definition, the sales cycle lengths are longer. So the deal sizes naturally are, north of that kind of number in order to warrant that type of investment.
Yeah, I'd say to add to that, I mentioned it in the introduction, there's the one-to-one could be used potentially for, almost engaging those opportunities that the sales team have already created. There's a high value opportunity. It's almost deal stage marketing. So there's an opportunity there. The other scenario is that you have an existing customer and that customer has, an international global footprint, and you want to expand that account and engage multiple different decision-making units internationally. So that's when you treat that account as a market of one, because essentially you may have sold in to one buying team in the UK, but then you want to grow that account in Germany, France, Italy, etc. So those are a couple of scenarios where you might use one-to-one.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Alex, Oli, anything you want to add on that one from your experience?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think it should necessarily come down to like a quantifiable value as such from a net new opportunity. For me, a lot of the time, particularly in my last business, it was around one-to-one was focused on existing customer expansion. So really taking those accounts that we knew were going to be hugely valuable, that would continue to grow. And that was actually exclusively what we did one-to-one. We didn't try and acquire any new logos, doing that really custom stuff on a one-to-one basis from an acquisition perspective. We saw it worked really well. We identified the right accounts to really expand. And that was basically because of our pricing was quite modular, and we had other products that we could sell into as well. So it made it quite complementary.
Thank you, Alex. Laura, who asked that question, hopefully if you can put into the chat, Laura, whether we've answered that question for you, and if not, let us know and we can clarify anything for you on this call or thereafter. So thank you. Alex, do you want to just moving back, you were obviously talking about account experiences. Is there anything more you'd like to add on there? Anything you want to bring in with Alex Oli on the call around this area?
Well, obviously, the space that Reach Desk play in plays to delivering that account spirit. They're part of the delivery mechanism for that experience. So, yeah, as I said earlier, the experience that your prospect accounts or existing customers receive increasingly is being connected subliminally to a B2C world. Expectations are growing. And like I said before, in order to cut through the noise, that experience that the account receives needs to be perceived to be as personal as possible in order for them to want to take action. And that experience should reflect the value proposition that you've tailored to that cluster of accounts or that single account, treating the account as a market of one. So it's incredibly important to get that right.
Alex, anything to add?
Mr. Embling has nailed it, that one really. For me, the experience side of things really does touch on that level of personalization. It doesn't need to be, we're talking about gifting in our space and direct mail, but sometimes it can just come down to the message, getting the message right that goes with the direct mail that you're sending or the vidyard that you're sending. It comes back to very simple things. Show me you know me, right? Show me that you understand me as an individual and the problems you're trying to solve. And that's where experience really gets elevated.
Absolutely. I love that term, show me that you know me. Alex, success factors, and actually this is one for everyone on the panel really. Can you talk us through Alex, Emblyn, Oli, and Fez, some of the success factors that you're seeing out there. Alex, do you want to start what you're seeing?
Me?
Yeah. Sorry, got two Alexes on the call.
Yeah,
It's awkward.
Yeah, I mean, look, getting that executive sponsorship is really important for you, for the highest value accounts, getting them behind the program. ABM goes beyond sales and marketing. It's a strategic business pivot, and that impacts and involves the entire organization. So it's really important to get that buy-in, because obviously they need to invest in it. You need to get that sponsorship, to get those budgets secured. Sales and marketing alignment. Anyone that reads any ABM related content, you will see ABM is wax lyrical about this. Unfortunately, it's true. It doesn't work without it, and hopefully I've illustrated some of the reasons why it doesn't work earlier on in the presentation. A lot of the insight comes from sales, but getting these two key departments to work together, including the whole of the business, is really important. For the context, relevance, and timing element. If the marketing team is monitoring the data correctly and providing the right sales enablement content in a timely manner, so that the sales guys who are closest to the prospect accounts can deliver the right message in the right moment, then that's incredibly powerful. And there's some amazing stats out there about aligned sales and marketing teams achieving 24% faster growth and 27% faster profit. They're two very compelling reasons to align. But it's not easy. It really isn't easy. And different cultures and different businesses have different success in achieving that. Getting that target account list right, absolutely fundamental. Strong ICP, build, refine, iterate, is a really important habit to get into.
Fantastic. Anything to add from Mr. Oli or Mr. Ascari?
Yeah, I mean, I would talk a little bit about gaining executive sponsorship, and that really is about building a strong business case into the executive team and making sure that marketing on its own can't always build the business case for account-based marketing, because ABM is essentially a revenue strategy. You need to have sales involved in the program, and you need to work with sales to define the target customer value, your target account list. And as a marketing team, you need to dig into understanding how your customers buy and which customers are highest value for you, so that you can then work with sales to define that business case back to the executive team. There is another element of gaining executive sponsorship that I talk about as well, because often in ABM, you're thinking about peer-to-peer engagement. So when you work with, targeting certain organizations, maybe you need to have your CTO target the target account CTO. So you want to make sure that the key people in your organization are bought into your program and they're willing to be part of that engagement, that account experience, CTO to CTO, CEO to CEO, for example. So there's a couple of considerations there about executive buy-in. Not sure what's happened to Declan there. He seems to have disappeared.
I think we've lost Declan. I'll replace him for now, if that's okay. Look, going into the success factors, for me, it's mainly about revenue, if not ultimately about revenue. Close one revenue is what we measure. The past 5 years, I've banned the word MQL in both this organization and my previous organization. We don't talk about leads anymore. We just talk about like opportunity pipeline revenue and close one revenue and expansion revenue. Those are the three things that ultimately we tie back to. And then everything above that is KPIs, really. Meetings booked. Again, that's not a goal as such. It always goes back to revenue. So I think that's the most important success factor. Fez, I love what you're saying about the executive buy-in. I know Declan's spoken about this. I've spoken to other ABM leaders such as Sangram from Terminus. If anyone's struggling to get that buy-in, I think some of the best advice I've heard is choose 5, maybe 10 accounts that are already in pipeline, sit down with your sales team and help them figure out how you can close them. Because as soon as you see the velocity and the close rate and the deal sizes go up, then the executive team will be wanting to know what happened. And that's actually how you can get buy-in really quickly. I think it's just one small thing that I've certainly learned over the past couple of years, is it's really hard to get someone to understand what's going on, but as soon as you show them results and then say, this is what we did, actually it can make life a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's another point there is just helping different stakeholders visualize that ABM journey. And, you know, maybe some of the graphics that we shared here today will help tell that story about the different stages that we go through. But it's good to keep that front of mind every time you engage with, you know, key people in the organization, whether it's the sales team or anybody else's. You know, just have those key objectives, like say, Alex, you know, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is how we get there. This is where we are today. And like Alex Embling was saying, you know, it's a bit of a marathon because, you know, it's enterprise sales, it's complex buyer journeys, it's C-suite engagement programs. It's all of that activity that leads to high value opportunities and engagement. So, you know, keep engagement, keep it front of mind. You know, have a weekly discussion with your team or a monthly session. Don't let things drop until, you know, it gets lost and forgotten about, because you need to have key people involved at every stage of the program. Very
cool. Nice one, Pez. Okay, well, look, we have lost Declan, but I can see Alex, I think, or Pez is now sharing this. Guys, that was the end of the presentation side of things. Now, I've already got a couple of questions, so I'm just going to tick them off as we go through. One of the questions from Nina here is, what would you recommend to track the performance of ABM campaigns? Is there a platform available? So, Alex and Fez, I'm going to throw that over your way. What would you recommend to track the performance of ABM campaigns, and what platforms do you recommend?
In terms of tracking the performance of ABM campaigns, because of the nature of its online and offline channel tactics, quite often you have disconnected data points. So it's really important to use technology wherever possible to connect all of those digital footprint areas. And obviously platforms like yourself, Alex, help connect some of those offline journeys as well. You know, when obviously the delivery of any direct mail or physical asset as part of the experience, all of that can be quantified now and tied back into a CRM. So getting the tech stack in place is really important. As an agency, we recommend Serious Decisions demand unit waterfall for measuring and the impact on revenue as far as ABM is concerned. If anyone's interested in that model, we can set up a session and go through that with them. But at a granular level, reputation, relationships, and revenue are the most important, obviously with revenue being the primary objective. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks, Alex. Another question from Kamal. Would you tell us what tools you're using to help understand intent?
Yeah, we work with, we recommend to our clients, well, we work with all types of intent platforms all across the market. Some of our clients already have in place. The one that we typically run with is a platform called Nexus. They have global coverage and seem to have the best data on the market.
Nexus, awesome. Yeah. Okay, a few more here. So this is from Lizzie. It kind of ties back to what we were talking about right at the beginning, is questions around ICPs. What do you start with?
What product you want to sell more of? Who's bought that from you? Who are the best clients that have bought that product before? And then you go through that ICP process that I described earlier. But what clients do I want more of? What product do I want to sell? And then dig really, really deep into those clients to find the technographic, firmographic, and most importantly, that nuanced criteria that is specific to you and your business.
Nice. So technographics being technologies that your target accounts might be using that complement your solution. Is that generally how you approach it?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is where obviously you look at a client and you look at if they have a technical footprint, technology they use that either integrates or implies that there is a connection with your product, then absolutely use that in your ICP criteria. But then all of the other nuanced criteria that you may or may not be aware of that may come to you in those quarterly refreshes are absolute gold dust. Those are the bits you're looking for. So like I said, for us, it's the sales it's the size of the sales and marketing teams that we work with, and also how digitally savvy those marketing teams are as well. It's a really good indicator as to whether they need us from a knowledge issue, from a knowledge perspective, or a knowledge and a resource perspective. These are just things that you pick up along as you work with more clients and you figure out why you're relevant. It's, you're reevaluating your product market fit, really.
Nice. So we've got two questions from Anne here. Would you have some examples of always on campaigns? Can you give us a few out of the playbook that you guys have?
Can we give you some examples of an always on campaign? Well, basically you have awareness content with connected value propositions that is either designed to talk to a single industry or the whole of your total addressable market. So we have campaigns. We have one of our case studies for one of our technology brands that is part of our always on program. We have our What is ABM ebook. We have, and you'll get a copy of it, our ABM playbook, which is part of our always on program. And the messaging within those pieces of content isn't necessarily talking to a specific vertical. It's talking to the ICP as a technology brand. So the messaging will be talking to technology rather than MarTech or EdTech or FinTech or one of the more sort of verticalized elements of technology. So the content is designed to talk at the technology level, the minimum entry criteria for our ICP. And then as you move into the one to few, that's when we start to introduce the vertical specific messaging where we're contextualizing ABM for a MarTech business or contextualizing ABM for a FinTech business. What does it mean to them and how would they deploy it?
Nice, I love that. Love that, Alex. This is another question from Anne. In the context of landing new business versus expanding it, would you recommend having two ABM frameworks or tracks? So you want to land some business, you want to expand some. How would you approach that?
Once again, it comes down to time and resource. So if you look at the Accentures and the Oracles of these worlds, they know this stuff works. The concept of treating an account as a market of one works, and they've just invested in ABM as. I think listening to Bev Burgess on one of our Let's Talk ABM interviews, I think the average was 3 to 4 accounts per ABMer. Deck, was it? On average, I can't remember. I think it was something along those lines though. But they know that one person can't manage any more than that type of ratio. So it all comes down to resource. The more resource you have, obviously, the more concurrent accounts you can target concurrently.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, apologies. I had a power cut here. Got a terrible storm here in Madrid. Hopefully, you can all hear me again now. Yeah, one of the feedbacks, Alex, from those talks with Bev over at ITSMA and also people over at Fujitsu is that don't go too big. Actually, try to restrict the number of accounts that you're looking at in the first instance, and it's much better to start small and to build up rather than starting with a large number of accounts and trying to bite off more than you can chew, really. Because it is resource heavy, requires a huge investment of time and effort, and it's better to start small, really, is what we're finding.
Yeah, and there's a poll running on the screen deck talking about ICP development, and it's interesting to see that obviously over half of the attendees have developed their ICP, but there's still a reasonable number of people working through that process. And I think, as Alex said earlier, ICPs and persona development is something that you should review regularly because markets change, as we've seen this year. Your product market fit will change, and the need for your solution can change with some urgency in some cases. So, making sure that you're really aligned with the sales team and the commercial team in terms of, who is a good fit for your organization to buy. It's really key. And then that will feed into your ABM account selection criteria process as well. But interesting results there.
Yeah, well, we have 5 minutes left scheduled for this webinar today. Alex, Oli, have you got all the questions there? Is there any more questions coming in on the line there?
I think we've got everything that's been answered. I'm conscious of time. I'm sure everyone would appreciate a minute or two to sort of disconnect before their next meetings. We're all digitally fatigued, let's say. But no, I'd just like to close this off, if that's all right. Thank you everyone for joining. I believe everyone on this call is a Reach Desk customer. We want to hold these sessions for you guys because most of what we're trying to do is help our customers really elevate their sales and marketing strategies. I can't be more of an advocate of strategic ABM. If any of you did want just to have a chat with any of the guys over there, Dec, Fez, and Alex, I believe you guys are offering sort of one-to-one sessions with businesses that do want that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to be just on the screen there. We're going to be following up by sending out to everyone an ABM playbook, which covers a lot of what we actually talked about today, but goes a bit deeper and further in terms of helping provide a roadmap for how to launch an ABM program or how to actually improve your existing program. So you'll all be receiving that into your inboxes shortly. And I'm sure that'll provoke some questions. And obviously you can reach out to us via email. You can reach out to us via LinkedIn, either any of the team at Strategic ABM or indeed to Alex Oli. And we very much hope that you've enjoyed this session today. And we hope you found it informative. So thank you to everyone who's joined.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Dec, Fez, Alex, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate all the hard work you've put into this. And for everyone watching, we will be sending out a recording of this at some point in the future. It might need a bit of editing, but appreciate everyone's time. Stay safe and well out there, and have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Cheers, guys.